You deserve your dream relationship. Full stop, the end. That's it. You deserve your dream relationship. And in order to get that, you need to put yourself out there. But putting yourself out there can feel pretty fucking terrifying. So, in this episode of the Date with Confidence podcast, I'm going to be sharing how to be confident in yourself when you are dating so that you can get that dream relationship that you deserve. Welcome to the Date with Confidence podcast, a place to come for dating advice, support, and stories that'll either fill you with hope or relief that your dating experience wasn't as bad as it could have been, with practical episodes that'll provide you with easy to implement tips to help you feel confident AF on your next date, alongside lighthearted catch-ups where your host Rebecca, that's me by the way, shares her own experience dating after 4 years of the single life. You are guaranteed to end each episode feeling less alone in your dating struggles, empowered to never settle again, and confident that the best is yet to come. And if it all falls to shit, there's a special first season dedicated to breakups. You are welcome, my friend. Subscribe, review, and share with your single friends. Now, if you are currently struggling to believe that you can have your dream relationship, or you're struggling to believe that your dream relationship exists, go back to episode 30 after you've listened to this, to the episode titled Your Dream Relationship Exists, Here's How to Believe It. And you can listen to the exercises that I do to help build belief in something that I am trying to manifest myself. But for now, as I said, in this episode, we're talking all about how to be confident when you're dating, because confidence is critical in all areas of our life. Confidence is really what helps us to get everything that we deserve in our life and more. When you lack confidence, it can be harder for you to put yourself out there, to take action, to put yourself in front of opportunities that can lead to the ultimate goal for you. But as I said, I understand how terrifying putting yourself out there can be. I understand how scary dating can be, whether you have just come out of a relationship, maybe it's been a long-term relationship and you're newly single and you want to put yourself back out on the market, or whether you have just been single for a really long time and you haven't had a relationship for a long time because you needed some space to process the past ones, whether you've never really dated before because all your energy and attention has gone into your career, for example. No matter what state you are in at the moment, no matter what phase of your life you're in at the moment, I'm hoping that this is going to help you increase your confidence whilst you're dating. Now, first of all, before we dive into the importance of confidence, what it looks like, and how you can increase your confidence, I want you to ask yourself this question. Now, this is a question that I ask myself whenever I'm scared of something. Whenever there's something that I want to achieve, or something that I'm striving for, or something that I want to do in my life, and I'm filled with fear because of it, I ask myself this question, and this question helps me to manage / overcome that fear. This is the question that I asked myself that enabled me to quit my 9-to-5 and travel around the world solo after being too afraid to leave the house for a couple of years. So it's a pretty powerful question. Ask yourself this: what scares me more? Putting myself out there and going on dates with strangers, or reaching 90 years old, being on my own, and never having experienced the loving relationship I dream of? Now, if you're not that fussed about getting to 90 years old and still being single and never having had a loving relationship, never been married, never been engaged, never lived with someone, never had that intimate commitment with someone, then maybe this episode isn't for you, and just don't go out there dating. Just stay single for the rest of your life. But I imagine that if you are here, dating is something that's important to you. Meeting someone new is important to you. Having a relationship is important to you. So I want you to use that fear of getting to 90 years old and never having had the relationship that you dream of. Use that fear to push you forward, and use it to help you get out of your comfort zone and push yourself out there. Put yourself out there in front of people who could potentially become your life partner. So to begin with, I wanted to discuss why confidence is so important in dating, to really reinforce the reasoning behind you increasing your confidence. Because sometimes if we don't understand just why doing something is so important or why having confidence is so important, we can feel like we've got other things to do. We've got better things to be doing with our time than working on our confidence. So these are some of the reasons that confidence is important in dating. And first of all, it shows people the real you quickly so that they know what they're getting. There is nothing worse, having also been on the receiving end of this, there is nothing worse than getting to know someone who is trying to impress you or who is wearing a mask as they get to know you because they are not confident or comfortable in who they are themselves. When you are confident in your own skin, when you can own who you are, you're happy to show people the real you from the off. And when you can be your authentic self in people, it enables you to connect with people on a much deeper and more honest level, which helps people to make their mind up about you and helps you to make your mind up about other people. You don't want to be dating someone for 3 months wearing this mask and then all of a sudden it drops and then the person that you're seeing sees the real you and realises that you're not actually for them. Whereas if you never wore the mask in the first place, they'd get to know who you really are and they would know early on whether they wanted to be with you or not. And if they didn't, then they just weren't your person. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, it just means that they were not your person and your person is still out there waiting to be found. Confidence also makes communication easier, so there's less likely to be misunderstandings. Now, I'll use my own example in this. I recently started dating someone and there have been a couple of times during our conversations over message where he has said something and I've been unsure of how to interpret it. So I've interpreted it a certain way, whilst also believing that that's not necessarily how he meant it. And during those moments, I was confidently able to go back to him and say, I'm not sure I understand the way that you meant that. Can you just clarify? Or for example, he said something in a sentence the other day and I was upfront with him and said, I don't like it when someone makes assumptions about me. And I wasn't being rude, but I was stating this is something that I don't appreciate so that it didn't continue during our discussions. And I think that's really important. If you can be honest about the way that somebody makes you feel with their tone of voice, with the messages they're sending, with the way that they speak to you, then they are going to understand your boundaries and they are going to know what is and what isn't acceptable to you. Now, that's not to say that you can be rude to someone or dismissive of someone's feelings, or you need to say to somebody, I don't like the way you do that, or I don't like the fact that you said this. There are ways that you can communicate in a confident way, and having that confidence in yourself just makes it easier for you to communicate those things so that you can open up a conversation around stuff. And communication is so essential in relationships. It is without a doubt the most important thing in any relationship, whether it be a friendship relationship, whether it be a familial relationship, or whether it be an intimate partnership relationship. Communication is so important, and when you are confident in yourself, you will more likely open up honestly to the person that you're talking to. Confidence also helps you to stand firm in your boundaries. Setting boundaries for yourself is vital, and I know that not enough of us do this. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself here because I have always been a people pleaser. Up until the last couple of years, my default setting is people pleaser, and I would do whatever anyone else wanted me to ensure that I was liked, to ensure that I didn't upset anyone, to ensure that I was prioritising somebody else's feelings because I didn't want to be seen as selfish. I've always put other people first. Yet now, over the last couple of years, I've started to create boundaries for myself where there are certain things that are acceptable to me and there are certain things that are no longer acceptable to me in any way, shape or form. And when you're in the dating arena, especially when you're meeting people and you have that connection with them or you feel like there's chemistry, it can be easy for us to glaze over our boundaries. It can be easy for us to say, I don't think that boundary needs to be there anymore. And it's one thing being fluid in your boundaries and choosing to adapt your boundaries from a place of empowerment and confidence. And it's another thing allowing yourself to ignore a boundary because you want to impress the other person or because you're fearful that the other person will judge your boundaries. Two completely different states, if you like. Two completely different types of allowing your boundaries to not even be overstepped, because the first example, nobody's overstepping your boundaries. You are choosing for those boundaries to be fluid. That is your choice from an empowered place. The other example is somebody overstepping your boundaries and you allowing them to do it because you don't have the confidence to stand strong in your boundaries. And it is important for you that you do stand firm in those boundaries, especially if they are things that are important to you. We have an entire lesson on setting strong boundaries within the confidence course. It's in module 6, and it is a really in-depth lesson about what boundaries are, the different types of boundaries you can set, how to set boundaries lovingly, and also how to respect other people's boundaries. So for more information on that, you can visit the show notes to learn about the confidence course there. Confidence is also important because it means you are less likely to drop your standards for someone. When, again, this comes back to my own personal life, when I was younger, there were certain standards and certain expectations I had for my partner, yet I ignored all of those things because my self-esteem was so low that I was fearful if I didn't drop these standards, they might leave me or they might go and find someone better than me, which is essentially the same as leaving me. But I lowered my standards because of a connection that I felt. In hindsight, I can see that those connections weren't healthy and that was coming from a fearful place. But now, as I am a hell of a lot more confident in myself, I've been working on my confidence for the last 13 plus years. I'm a confidence coach, I help other people increase their confidence. Now I am in this headspace and I've got to this point in my life, I refuse to drop my standards for someone. And that can be difficult sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy for you to stand strong in those standards, especially so standards for me in dating are things like deal breakers, things that are an absolute no from me because of the life that I want to lead, because of my personal values. They are the things that are really important to me. And when I had lower self-esteem, I was willing to lower my standards, but now I'm not. I know what I want and I'm very aware of what I deserve, especially with what I have received in the past in terms of partnerships. I know what I deserve now, and the confidence I have in myself means that I am less likely to drop my standards for somebody else. Confidence also helps you steer clear of red flags, which again is really important because I don't know about you, but especially when there is that chemistry with someone, I can be guilty of putting on those blinkers and going, I don't see a red flag. What do you mean red flag? Don't all men do that? Yet when you're confident in yourself, you are not willing to stand for the bullshit red flags or the things that are or could potentially harm you in the future emotionally, physically, mentally, energetically. And lastly on my list, confidence is important in dating because it stops you settling for someone who isn't right for you who doesn't treat you well. Now in this scenario, it's very much on par with self-worth, like self-worth and self-confidence are intertwined. There are a lot of times, I feel like there's two different scenarios here. If you've been in a toxic or unhealthy or abusive relationship before and you meet someone and they give you that little bit more of attention than the previous partner, or they treat you that tiny little bit better than the previous partner, then you may feel like, okay, well this is my person because I've not experienced these things before. But at the same time, that could lead to you settling for someone who isn't actually right for you and who doesn't treat you well as you think, they just treat you better than the last one did. And I'll give you an example here. When I met the Am I Delusional guy, because of the way that we communicated emotionally and verbally, I believed that he was somebody I deserved to be with, because the way that we communicated was so much better than how I'd communicated with previous partners, and his self-awareness was so much greater than previous partners. However, there were quite a few toxic traits there that would or could have potentially negatively impacted me, my self-esteem, and my future. There were a few red flags there. However, the headspace that I was in at that time, I would have settled for continuing to date him, because from my experience of dating other people previously, he was the first guy that I felt like I really connected to since my ex, and because of the way that we communicated, I would have continued dating him and almost settled for someone who didn't necessarily tick all my boxes, who wasn't the full package as such, because there was still a part of me that was perhaps doubting myself and that didn't have as much confidence in dating as I now do 6 months later. Whereas now when I approach people that I'm dating or potential relationships, I know I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle in anything, regardless of the connection, regardless of the chemistry, regardless of what things look like on paper. It has to feel completely right, and I have to trust that that's the right thing for me, because and because of the place that I'm in my self-confidence, I am confident enough to know that if this person isn't the one, there will be someone better out there for me. They are just some of the reasons why confidence is so important in dating. So I hope they have helped to reinforce this idea that you need to increase your confidence when it comes to dating. Or you'll know in yourself when you have seen your confidence increase. Because confidence in dating looks like saying yes to dates. If you find yourself saying yes to more dates, matching with more people, putting yourself out there more, you'll know that you have been steadily increasing your confidence. Confidence in dating also looks like opening up about yourself, keeping the conversation flowing, and if there are any pauses or are any moments of silence, you don't instantly go to that place of anxiety or panic of, oh my god, it's silent, does that mean that we're not connected? Does that mean, what's he going to think if there's silence? Or does that mean something bad if we can't continue the conversation? Silent periods are normal. They are natural when you're connecting with someone new as well. They're natural in relationships. The conversation isn't going to be flowing all day, every day when you're in a relationship with someone. So it's okay to experience these slight pauses. And when you have confidence in yourself, you don't worry about these slight pauses. Confidence in dating also looks like asking engaging questions and making the other person feel comfortable. So it's not just about you feeling comfortable and confident. It's also about helping the other person to open up in front of you and creating a safe environment for them to be able to answer your questions, for them to be able to share information about themselves, and perhaps even moments where they are vulnerable with you. It also looks like being upfront with what you're looking for. So many times, I've done this myself and my clients have done this too, we are scared to be upfront about what we're looking for. Even if we're really super specific, there can be moments where we're scared to actually say, okay, this is what I want, because we don't want to scare the person off, or we feel like there might be chemistry and we don't want them to run away, or we're just anxious of how they will respond to our desires. But when you're confident in yourself, you are upfront from the off with what you're looking for. And this is a good thing, because you being upfront with your desires is either going to make somebody want to continue connecting with you and get to know you more, or it's going to make them go, yeah, I'm not into that. And the ones that go, yeah, I'm not into that, that's fantastic, because you are getting rid of people who are not going to fit your vision. You don't want everyone to like you. You don't want everyone to have the same vision as you. You don't want everyone to understand your vision. You're just looking for this one person. I mean, unless you're in a polyamorous relationship, of course, but for the purposes of this episode, you're just looking for that one person. You only need one person who is excited about your vision, who has the same desires as you, who wants to get to know you more. So never be afraid of scaring anyone off. And I feel like when you are confident in yourself anyway, the fear of rejection does lessen. And talking of rejection, I will remind you that I have got a whole episode on how to handle rejection when you're dating, which again, I'll link in the show notes for you so you can go and check that out if rejection is something that concerns you or is something that you struggle with. Confidence in dating, on that same note, also looks like asking tough questions so you don't waste your time. It looks like walking away when your gut tells you it's a no, such a big one for so many of us. It can also look like sending closure messages. When you know that a connection is not going anywhere, or when you feel like it's come to a natural halt, or you have realised that it's not your person, when you are confident in yourself, you are going to find it easier to send those closure messages and to send those messages to say that you're not interested in pursuing things any further. And that is great for you because you're getting it out of your head. You're saying goodbye, you're closing a door, opening and making space to open up another door. And it's also better for them because you're not leaving someone hanging on or wondering how you really feel. Is this going to go anywhere? You're nipping things in the bud as and when they need to. And confidence in dating also looks like asking for clarification and stating your boundaries without fear, which we briefly touched on before. So when it comes to how to be confident in yourself when you're dating, there are 3 layers of confidence that you need to work on. And this comes from the 90-90 mindset concept. I talk about the concept itself in a lot more detail in the episode titled "This Simple Concept Will Help You Date with Confidence," which I will link for you in the show notes. But in this example, we're going to be looking at the 3 layers of confidence you need to work on. These 3 layers are think confident, act confident, and feel confident. So first of all, think about the thoughts you are telling yourself. When it comes to your dating life, what thoughts have you got on repeat? What are you saying to yourself? And how can you change them? How can you tell yourself different things to help you feel more confident when it comes to dating? There are 2 episodes that I've already recorded for you. One is about the mindset shifts you need to make when you're dating, and the other one is about things I tell myself before a first date. Again, they're in the show notes for you, but these are episodes that are around the conscious thoughts you are saying to yourself, the conscious thoughts you are repeating to yourself over and over again. What you want to do is get to a place where the thoughts that you have, the default thoughts that you have on repeat in your mind, are ones of confidence. Instead of telling yourself that dating's hard or men are trash, people are going to judge you, what if they don't like me, what if no one fancies me, what if I don't get any matches. Instead of all the bullshit thoughts that are holding you back from dating with confidence, your default narrative is going to be one of excitement, one of confidence, one of feeling worthy around having the relationship that you truly desire. Then when it comes to the act confident layer, ask yourself, what do you need to do to act with confidence? Are there any certain behaviours that naturally make you behave more confidently? For me, things like changing my posture, the way that I stand, the way that I walk, the clothes that I wear impacts how confident I feel about myself. Whether I've done my hair or makeup can change the way that I feel, the way that I act when it comes to confidence. What do you need to do to act with confidence? I teach my clients in my confidence course community and this idea around having confidence anchors. So there are certain things that I will apply. For example, certain pieces of jewellery, certain perfumes that I'll wear. They are my confidence anchors, a certain playlist that I'll play or a song that I'll play. So whenever I hear that playlist or put on that piece of jewellery or spray that perfume, it instantly helps me to embody my most confident self. It helps me embody my confidence persona, which again is something that we talk about in the confidence course, this idea of creating your confidence persona so that as you build your self-confidence, you've got this alter ego that helps you step into that confidence a hell of a lot quicker. I also have an episode on how to act confident before a first date. So again, link it in the show notes so you can go back and listen to that because that is a good one. That's just a short episode and that's quite a nice one to listen to as you are actually getting ready. And on that same act confident layer, I want to remind you that confidence comes from taking action. So whilst you can do the mindset work, whilst you can apply your confidence anchors, whilst you can step into your confidence persona and do things like visualization to help you feel confident, you can only reach a certain level of confidence with those tools and techniques. True, unwavering, steady self-confidence comes from you taking action. There is a new level of confidence that you can reach when you have pushed yourself out of your comfort zone and when you have done something brave or scary. So let me give you an example. When I was 21 years old, or just before I was 21 years old, I was nearly fired from my job because I was calling in sick so often. I had terrible IBS, I had crippling anxiety, I had regular panic attacks, and I used to call in sick from work all the time. I was terrified to leave the house. I didn't socialise. I essentially had no life. I was just about existing. And then I was nearly fired from my job. At that moment, when I realised that I was about to lose the one thing that I really, really enjoyed, I made a commitment to myself to transform my life. This was back in 2011. I made a promise to myself that I was going to say yes to every single thing that scared me, no matter how terrified I was, no matter how great the anxiety was. And whilst I started to do things like repeat a new mantra to myself, so instead of telling myself all the things that scared me, every single day I would say to myself, I can achieve anything I set my mind to. This became my mantra for life, and I would repeat it over and over and over again. And that helped me increase my confidence to a certain extent. But it wasn't until I did all the things that terrified the fuck out of me that I was actually able to build a solid foundation of self-confidence. And these were little things to start with. So at first, when it came to socialising, I didn't go anywhere. I have a phobia of sick called emetophobia, and that fear of vomit made it difficult for me to go out in public because I was convinced that any time I went out in public, someone would be sick. So to start with, I used to go to the pub on a Friday evening, and I would say to myself, right, we're going to sit here for 30 minutes. All you've got to do is make it through these 30 minutes. And I would make it through the 30 minutes, and then my granddad would pick me up and drive me home. And then after a couple of minutes, after a couple of weeks, it was, I'm going to go to the pub for an hour. And I would go to the pub for an hour, and I'd be sitting there, and I'd be anxious, and I'd be freaking out. And then my granddad would come and pick me up, and he would drive me home, and I'd get home, and I would be so fucking proud of myself that I'd sat in that environment that was absolutely petrifying for me. And that gave me a bit more confidence. And within a few weeks, I'd got to the point where I could be in the pub for a few hours. And then it got to the point where I could go from one pub to another pub, to the point where I built it up where I could go to multiple pubs in an evening. I started drinking and made a lot of friends, and I was socialising all the time. Had I not put myself in those uncomfortable environments, I would never have increased my confidence to the point that I was able to get on a plane one way to Bangkok by myself and travel around the world solo. Confidence comes from taking action and is exactly the same when it comes to dating. So first of all, you do the scary thing like sign up and create a dating profile. That's an action that builds your confidence, because as soon as you've created that dating profile, you're going to start getting matches, and that's going to increase your confidence. Then you're going to have conversations with a couple of people. Once you've had conversations with a couple of people, you're going to have more confidence because people are actually reaching out to you. Then you'll get asked on a date. That'll boost your confidence. Then you'll go on a first date, and it'll probably be scary, and it'll probably make you feel anxious. But once you've got to that date and you've been on that date, you'll realise, wow, I can actually date. And you'll have another boost of confidence. And slowly but surely your confidence will begin to grow because you are taking action. So whilst the act confident layer is very much about the practical things to do, so things like what do you need to do to act with confidence, it is also about confidence coming from taking action. So try and do the things that scare you on a regular basis. When you have done scary things, there is something called the discomfort zone come down, which you need to just be aware of. Again, we talk about this in the confidence course, but I've also got a video on YouTube that I will link in the show notes for you that will help you to handle the discomfort zone come down. So it will help you to handle that come down after you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. Then we look at the feel confident layer. Now, feeling confident dating isn't just about feeling confident on a date. It's something Confidence is something that you have to embody in your everyday life. So there is no point wandering through your life lacking confidence and then just feeling confident on a first date. You want to embody this level of self-confidence in every area of your life, in every single part of your day. When you build a solid foundation of self-confidence, that trickles out into all the areas of your life, including dating. So don't think to yourself, I have to just focus on being confident in dating. Focus on building a solid foundation of confidence where you feel confident every day, and watch as that trickles into the dating area and the rest of the other areas of your life. And again, this is something that we cover in more depth in the confidence course. We break each of these 3 layers down. There's a module on each of these 3 layers where we look at think confident exercises, act confident exercises, and feel confident exercises such as visualization, meditation, hypnosis, all those kind of things we talk about in there to help you build that solid confidence foundation. When you work on these 3 areas and you build that solid foundation of confidence, this is also going to help you when you're in a relationship. So even if doing this kind of stuff makes it feel like work now, know that it's not going to go to waste. It's not like you're going to do all this work on yourself and you're going to date and then you're going to meet someone and then everything you've done isn't going to matter anymore. All the tools and the techniques and the new ways of being and the changes to your narrative and the way that you act, that is all going to be taken into any future relationships. So it is really worth you spending some time focusing on increasing your self-confidence. And as I said, I'll link to more episodes in the show notes that break down the 3 of these areas in a bit more detail as well, because I don't want this episode to be too long. But yeah, confidence is super important when it comes to dating. The more confident you feel, the more likely you are to manifest the one and have that relationship you dream of. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. And if you've got any questions following on from this episode, then go to datewithconfidencepodcast.com/contribute. I'd love to hear how this helped you, if there are any specific techniques you're going to go and look at. If, as I said, you've got questions following up from this, do let me know, because I want to make this space as helpful as possible to you. I'll leave links to all the episodes I mentioned within the show notes, and I'll leave links to the confidence course in there as well if you want to go and check that out, so that you can begin to work on each of these 3 layers of confidence so that you can date with confidence. I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Date with Confidence podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Subscribe, rate and review, and share it with your single friends.